us shortly.
Yeah. I prefer live, actually.
So I think it says we're live streaming. Does it say that on yours?
Meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. Yes, that's what it says. Is that going to be there the whole time?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it is going to be there the whole time.
I'll just ignore
it. So I'm just checking that we're in the group and that people can ask questions if they want to. Let me just see. Are we there? Yes, we are. Okay. So I'm just going to press record and then I'll introduce you. Where's the record?
I know.
Record. I think you have to press a button actually as well now.
Oh.
Okay, guys, so this is Charlie Wall, and I am recording live in my Facebook group, my podcast for Courage Dear Heart, and today I'm joined by the very wonderful Cathy Casey. Welcome, Cathy.
Hey, Charlie, good to be here.
It's lovely to have you here, and I know that some of my audience know you very well and love you very much, so I'm very honoured that you are joining us today for this live streaming podcast, and we're going to be talking about the menopause. But before I do, I always ask everyone, because my podcast is called Courage Dear Heart, what the word courage means for you.
But you're asking me this question?
I am asking.
Oh, you're asking. Okay. So what does the word courage mean for me? Courage to me means being, how do I want to say this? Accepting our humanity. You know, really accepting our humanity. And I think that takes a lot of courage because we tend not to want to do that. You know, accept that we have our flaws, accept that there are things we don't know, accept that we're not perfect and all of that. I think that takes a lot of courage because most people, I think, feel their worst fear is that people will find out that they don't have it together. So I would tend to do the opposite and kind of pretend that I had it together. And so my worst fear was, oh, if people really knew that I didn't know anything or I don't have it together, that frightened me so much. And then one day, I don't know, out of the blue, I decided, you know, I just need to step up and get over myself. And so I did.
Was that before or after the principles?
It was definitely after. It was definitely after. And that took a while. That took a while. But after, I remember one day realizing, you know, it's okay to just be me. I'm doing the best I can. And I just accepted my humanity, which was huge because most of us don't. So to me, I think that takes courage. It has to start with ourselves. And then after that, I think the sky's the limit, you know?
Yes, I do. And that's definitely been my experience, certainly since coming across the principles. So we are here to look and talk about the menopause through the lens of the principles. And the reason that came about and the reason I asked you is because you and I had some coaching with you and I was like, I'm postmenopausal. And you had some lovely wisdom around that, which I would just love for you to share. What's been your experience of the menopause for you and through the lens of the principles?
Well, the first thing is I wish I knew this even before menopause, because my experience with, you know, my cycles was a nightmare. My PMS was like off the chart, like really bad. And because I was a very high strung, very intense person, I was very, you know, had 20 balls in the air at all times and very speedy in my mind. And so when I had a physical issue, like my cycles, looking back now, I can see why they were exacerbated. Meaning I truly had hormonal issues going, which is a real thing. It's a physical thing.
Yeah.
And I had the mood swings and all that go with that, and the actual physical cramps and the bleeding and all that goes with that. And I think because my mind was so intense in general, my symptoms were probably a little more exacerbated than they would have been. So I still had the issue. So as I went into the premenopause, it got a real nutty. You know, it got unpredictable things, and then I got a fibroid, which it was like drinking 3 pitchers of beer. It was sitting on my bladder. It was just a nightmare. So physically, I was a wreck. And so when I started shifting into menopause, well, it certainly took care of the fibroid issue because menopause causes it to shrink. But I was still like, you know, the mood swings and all the rest that goes with it. So as I was learning the principles, what I started to notice was my symptoms, or what I was experiencing, wasn't as intense. Like, I was still going through it, but it was different. And now looking back, what was happening is my mind was just getting lighter in general.
Mm.
You know, the more I was learning the principles and I was teaching them all the time, over time, my mind sort of settled down more. Not to say I didn't have my moments, but I just, you know, the dust started to settle. And as my mind just started to kind of slow down, when I would go through the hot flashes and go through, you know, the mood swings and go through the tiredness and all the rest, it didn't take me out like it would have. Meaning I didn't go into all this thinking about, oh, this is horrible and why me and why do women have, you know, that usual victim, like, look what's happening to me. It was different. I had a different relationship with what I was going through physically. And again, at the time, I didn't realize it until like further along, where things started to shift. And I thought, wow, it's because my mind is lighter. My symptoms, they're not as extreme. Or when I have an extreme symptom, I don't make a whole lot of meaning about, you know, like, what's wrong with me. I'm more apt to use my wisdom about, well, where can I get some help with this? You know, where can I get some support? So I just totally had a different take on the whole experience.
Would you say that prior to your mind settling, that there was a fear around the physical symptoms? Did you experience fear around the pain or the fibroids or anything like that?
Well, I don't know if it was fear. It was more, I was angry that it was like I was out of control. It affected my marriage at the time, meaning I was on the edge. You know, I was always feeling like I was on the edge and I couldn't tolerate anything. So I would just lash out.
Mm.
And so I was more angry than fearful. Like, you know, why do I have to have this? And apparently this is after, you know, when I was in menopause, or even after, they came up with a pill where you didn't get your period. They came up with one of those. I said, oh, if they had one of those, I would have been first in line. I'll take it. To not have a period. And they say, oh, that's not right and that's wrong. I'm like, I'll take it. That's how strongly I felt about it. If you could take this away from me, I'd be very happy. So I was just angry that it put me in a position where I was at the mercy of my emotions and my feelings. And, you know, the physical part, yeah, you take your Advil, you put your heating pad on, you know, I could cope with that, but it was my psychological, emotional state that and the more, of course, the more angry I got, the more intense everything was. So, and I even went to my doctor a few times. Can you guys do something about this? You know, and they, you know, they kind of look at you like, yeah, okay. Yeah, they didn't take me seriously. Like, oh, now you'll be fine, which made me even more angry.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that anger seems justified to me.
And back in the day, I mean, back in the day, they didn't see what we know now. They have medication to help with this. They're finding antidepressants help with the actual hormonal piece. I mean, there are a lot of things that they've come up with now that are beneficial to women, and it's being taken seriously, and it's been added as a real issue that women do experience this, as well as postpartum depression. I mean, that's another whole area. I experienced that when I had a late pregnancy. I think I was 40. And in the 4th month, the baby died inside of me. So after that experience, I went into a postpartum depression that was so bad. And I was just getting ready to go see a psychiatrist. I thought, there's something wrong here. And the next day I was fine. It was weird. My hormones, they literally just came back in a day, where I was like, oh, well, I'm glad that's over. But prior to the chemical change, I was really depressed. I mean, that was a real thing. So I think today women are now it's a real thing. It's acknowledged. It's not just, it's not in women's heads. So I think we've come a long way in how it's seen, and how it's not something that women are making up, that it's truly affecting women in this way. So, but back when I was going through it, nothing was available. Plus I didn't know, I was just angry and experiencing everything and not having a good time.
And I remember my mum, I don't know how old you are, but my mum's 72, and the generation of women who were given diazepam, temazepam.
Oh yeah. I'm 71 now. Nobody ever offered that to me, but there was really nothing available, or there wasn't even anything acknowledged, I think. And so even with my fibroid, I researched it, and you have to have a hysterectomy. And I'm like, that's it? That's your choice? I mean, that seems so extreme, but I was so uncomfortable. I thought, I'll do anything. And so I had an appointment scheduled. I mean, I had the surgery scheduled. You had to wait 3 months because, you had to wait 3 months. And my dear friend and colleague, she recommended I go see a homeopath. And I'm like, yeah, right. And I said, no, come on, let's get real here. They x-rayed it. It's like a grapefruit sitting in my uterus. And she says, well, no, you should still see. And I just put her off. And she said, I'll pay for the appointment. She made me go. So I go, and they give you this questionnaire, and they ask you all these different questions. When you sleep at night, do you like the covers on your feet? Or, I mean, I'm sitting there like, you've got to be kidding me. So then they give you the little remedy, these little white things, and you put on your tongue, and I'm like, and how much did you pay for that? She paid for the appointment. But they wanted me back 2 more times within a week. And I'm like, man. So just to humor she was a dear friend, just to humor, I went 2 more times. And by the end of the 2nd week, my symptoms started to be less. And I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So I decided to go back. So I went back. She gave me the remedy again. Within a month, all the symptoms were gone. I called my doctor and canceled the surgery.
Oh my word.
And he's like, really? Because he's got the x-ray, and I was in tears, like how bad it was. I said, and I didn't even tell him, like, I'm going to tell a medical doctor. Well, I went to this homeopath, and truly, and I didn't believe in any of it. I don't know why, but I didn't have to have the surgery. So
wisdom in action.
I mean,
right there.
I mean, but I was literally, if it wasn't for my partner and my colleague, I would have never done that. So I trusted her enough where I said, fine, but she had to pay for the first session.
Just even that, like just, and I know some of the women listening or men listening, if they're listening, may not know about the principles, but to me, that speaks to your friend coming in and being kind of called to do so, and it having such a profound impact on your being.
She, for some reason, she really, because she had been, this is somebody she had been going to. She was also a chiropractor, but the bottom line is, I was listening to her wisdom. Okay. I wasn't listening to my own. I was just like so in it. I was at the end of my rope and surgery was it. Now, the point I also wanted to make is it wasn't necessary to do a complete hysterectomy, but that's all they had available. They were still, as I researched, they were starting to come up with other ways without having to do this drastic surgery where they could shrink the fibroid a certain way, but it wasn't available for another like 3 years. I was still in so again, because of the timing, I didn't have things available to me. So I lucked out that this worked, but had it not worked out, I would have had a complete hysterectomy. And then 3 years later, it's not necessary anymore for women to have that. There's this other procedure that they can do, which is just as effective without having to do that major surgery. So I'm like one of the pioneer women's rights. There was a time in my lifetime I couldn't have my own credit card. I couldn't buy my own house. I couldn't buy my own car in my name. Wow. When I was, as a married woman. I mean, talk about the dark ages. Pro-choice did not exist. None of that in my lifetime. So I got to go through all those, advances, but I was always one step behind or ahead, behind. But once I learned the principles, looking back, if I had known the principles going through all that, I know it would have been different. I would still be going through it, but because I would have a different take on things, my mind, my understanding of my mind and how it works, I think I would have used my wisdom even more. Like, all right, what's out there that can help me? Like there's nothing wrong with me, but I need to find out if there's anybody out there that can help me deal with this in terms of the physical aspect.
So just to sort of link what you said there, because I'd want you to expand on the principles and the menopause a bit more, but you said, I was following my friend's wisdom. I wasn't trusting my own. What was yours saying? Your
what
wisdom?
Do you mean? Well, it's interesting. Throughout my life, this has happened to me on occasion where if I trust another person, and they're pointing me in a direction, because I trust them, I tend to go with that. Now, that's happened to me like maybe 3 times in my life, maybe 4, where somebody has said something and left to my own devices, I wouldn't have gone along with it. But because of the other, and we all have people like that in our lives where we're all caught up in something and somebody has presence of mind or a sense of helping you, supporting you, and they will give you good advice, for some reason. And I just decided to trust her, what she was saying, kicking and screaming the whole way. Okay. Yes. And it's the same as I was learning the principles, because my mentor at the time was Roger Mills, and he would say something to me like, you don't need to carry your son in your mind and worry about him to be a good mother. And I'm like, yes, I do. What are you saying? Of course I do. And he said, well, no, you really don't. And for some reason, I trusted him saying that. And I actually tested that. Like, well, what would happen if I didn't worry about him in certain situations? And I realized he's right. So on my own, I probably wouldn't have come to it. But because he kind of put it to me, no, that's not required to love your son or to be a good mom. I had to check it out for myself, but it was because of what he put to me that I was willing to take a look at it. So in a way, it's my own wisdom, actually, being willing to hear something from another person. Sometimes our wisdom can hear something from another person and it could be, no, that's actually doesn't make sense to me. So it can go that way too. Okay. So say it really didn't make sense to me to see the homeopath. like really, for some reason I felt, no, that really doesn't make sense to me, then I would listen to that too. So you just never know what wisdom's going to bring up for you.
So tell us about your, because I know you mentioned, I don't know if it was Roger Mills or George, one of the two men, I think, said something to you about the menopause and this sort of shedding. That's what I remember you saying. I'm sure
Oh,
you.
that's my, no, I came up with that.
Oh, great. Then you. That was my
Well,
memory.
which is fine. Yeah, nobody, I don't think anybody's ever used that word. It's funny, when I was learning the principles, what starts to happen, and you don't see it till after the fact, over time. And I started to see it with other people more so than with myself. So as I was teaching people the principles, and all of a sudden they show up different, they just look different. And one day somebody said, yeah, what, Cathy, why is that? Like, why do people, look different, or they see things different? And then out of the blue, I said, well, it's like a dog in the summer. He starts shedding his winter coat. And that's kind of how I see human beings. We start shedding all that extra thought we're walking around in. It just comes, when dogs shed their fur, they're not pulling the fur off. It just comes off of them. If you own a dog that sheds,
I do.
you can, it's everywhere. I mean, they're shedding the fur, and you get to see the results of that. Well, that's what happens with human beings. Thought just starts to come off of us like a dog shedding his fur. And I just somehow got a visual of that. And the more we shed our thinking, that means we just start to lighten up, just in general. And it's a phenomena I see all the time. No matter which groups of folks I've worked with so many different groups, inmates in prison, engineers, business people, teachers, I mean, you name it, religious people. When they get a hit off these principles, it's like their minds lighten up. And I see it time and time again. So that's what happens when we start to understand how the system works. Like, what is the nature of these principles? Like, not how to be, how to change, or to be different. No, it's just understanding where it all comes from. Like, so when I was going through menopause, I was doing a lot of teaching groups. And many times I've been, they videotape a number of the sessions. And there's a certain couple of years where you'll see me teaching, and I'll have a sweater on because the room has the air conditioning is like really high. I'm freezing. And then 10 minutes later, I'm having a hot flash. So the sweater comes off, and I'm teaching for a while. And then all of a sudden I'm cold again. So you'll see the little sweater comes off and on and off and on. I mean, but the thing that was different is I just didn't care. I didn't worry about it, that was happening. Like because the hot flashes, man, some of them, what some of them reminded me of? This is really bizarre, but this is what would happen. When I had my son, I used to breastfeed, and there's this thing called a letdown reflex. Right before the milk comes in, it's a sensation that you have in your breast. And so when I would start having these hot flashes, I would have that letdown experience. Like when I was breastfeeding, I'm like, what's up with that? That was kind of weird for me. So I'm teaching a whole group of people, and it's like I'm getting ready to breastfeed. That's the feeling in my breast. Plus the hot flash is just coming over me, like big time, as I'm in mid-sentence teaching whatever I'm teaching. So because I was so like okay with that, I just went with it. Like, okay, it's all right, she's taking. And nobody ever mentioned that nobody ever said to me, Cathy, you tend to be taking. Maybe they were thinking it like, she keeps changing it, on and off. My sister, she knitted this beautiful little shawlet, and I started using that instead. So it wasn't like having to take my sleeves out. So I have the little shawl on, or I take it off, but it was less obvious. But yeah, so I, through a lot of teaching for about a 2-year span, man, I was going through the full range of menopause. Looking back, the only thing I would do differently, and this is part of being stubborn, it affected my sleep. So when we sleep at night and you're going through menopause and you're having these hot flashes, they wake you up. And I wish I had taken something, hormonal treatment for a certain given amount of time, because when you don't get enough sleep, it can take a toll on you. And that I think I would do differently, that I would have definitely gotten hormone replacement for that window of time to help with the hot flashes, because when you don't get good sleep, it really, it's not good. It's not good. So I kept thinking, well, maybe I should do it. Maybe I shouldn't. Meanwhile, I'm getting sleep deprived, and that I wasn't listening to my wisdom. My wisdom said, go get help. And I overrode that. No, I'm going to tough my way through it. And I didn't need to do that. I really didn't need to do that. So there are times when, no, I wasn't listening to my wisdom, because looking back, I was an idiot not to get help with that. But, you know, at the time, that's where I was at.
Yeah. And the shedding that you talk about, would you say that's like, as soon as you're not so much in your head and experiencing stress or worry, that there is a layer of shedding, and that impacts on your menopausal symptoms?
Oh, big time. Oh, absolutely. Oh, without a doubt. Because that intensity that I used to have, because my mind, when I was learning the principles and I was around a lot of the folks that were into it, I was a live wire. I did not fit. Everybody was calm and, you know, and then there was me, you know, and people would kind of make a comment about that. Like, now Cathy's an example of, you know, we don't know what it is, but I was having all the success teaching these principles in the prison system and all these other areas. And Sydney Banks would always talk about me, and see, he didn't care how people were. He just saw the results. When he sees the results, he doesn't care how people are. And so I was kind of like, didn't fit into the kind of the, you know, everybody's just in this calm place. So and so again, I kept thinking, well, if I have to be like that, then it's not going to work. I can't do that, you know, be calm, and which would be ridiculous. So, because the understanding is not how to be, it's not how to be, it's where your being comes from. But what started happening to me is, because I'm still Cathy, I'm still kind of, you know, somebody's called me, I bring energy to the session. I did the session a couple of weeks ago. Cathy, you really bring energy to the session. I said, yeah, I have the energy, but I'm really present. Like, I'm not thinking ahead. I'm not second guessing. I'm really in the moment. And that's what's different for me. So when you're in the moment, like, think about this, when you're really like dealing with some physical issue, whatever it is, and you get a phone call, and now you're talking to this person on the phone, you're not experiencing usually that physical issue. You know, I mean, it may be there, maybe in the background, but it's different. It changes because your mind is somewhere else. So when your mind goes somewhere else, whatever you're experiencing physically, you're not having as direct an experience of it as you are when you're not on the phone. And we've all had that experience where we get distracted into something else, and all of a sudden you're not feeling what you're feeling. And then all of a sudden you hang up the phone, and then I go, oh yeah, I feel bad. You know, you're in the thinking, I feel bad.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't think about what you're experiencing, but what I'm showing is any experience you have comes from wherever your mind is. So if I'm constantly thinking about, oh, because lately I have issues with my hips. So when I'm hanging out with my grandkids, I still have the issue, but it's like they're not there. I mean, grandma, up. She wants me to pick her up. So I pick her up, and she wants me to hold her and and normally at home, I'd be like, I don't want to pick up anybody. But because I'm present with them, I'm fine. I'm fine. Now, when I go home, I get the after effects of that, like probably overdoing it. And I have to, I take this inflammatory. When I'm with my grandkids, I may have to take an extra one, but I don't, it's fine. Like, okay, I'm 71, got arthritis. It's just something that I have to deal with. Whereas before, I would have been a mess. I would have been really, really worked up about it and made a lot of meaning about it. And this is not good and blah, 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 blah. Whereas now I take it in stride. So when your mind lightens up, whatever physical thing you're experiencing, and one woman really, really helped me with this. It's not about menopause, but it's the same principle. I was doing an evening class once a week on Thursday nights. And a lot of people would come from the drug treatment programs. They would come to the class at night. They were allowed to come. And this one woman showed up. She was in the drug treatment program for alcohol. She was addicted to alcohol. And there aren't many pure alcoholics anymore. Usually it's a mixture, but she was a diehard. And she walks into the room and she was bent over. She had a cane and she looked really old, like really done. And her name's Marilyn. And she comes into the class. And, all kinds of folks are in the class, some are on psych meds. I mean, I get the full mixture, but she intrigued me. I thought, man, I can't believe she can even walk into the room. She had rheumatoid arthritis, a very severe case of rheumatoid. It's extremely painful. And because she's off the alcohol, now she's getting the full brunt, because that's why she drank. She, anything to get rid of the pain.
Yeah.
So to make a long story short, she would come every week to the class. And every week she looked a little better. And she was a tall woman. And finally I looked up at her and she looked 100% healthy. Like, who is this person? And so I went up to her and I said, Marilyn, I noticed you look so different. How are you doing? Because I knew she had the arthritis, and she didn't talk about it. I knew from a colleague that that's what she had. And she said, I have a different relationship with my arthritis. I said, what do you mean? She said, I don't know how to explain it, but it's still there, but I'm not focused on it like I used to be. And she blew me away. And so she's done some classes on pain and the principles. I always refer people to her if they call me and they have chronic pain. I go, okay, you need to work with Marilyn. And she's brilliant because she was experiencing chronic pain. And not to say she had her good days and bad days, but her understanding, again, because her mind was lighter and she had a different take on it. She wasn't in the victim mode. She just saw it as, okay, this is a physical thing going on with my body. And there's no meaning about me being a good or bad person. This is just what's going on with my body. She got really neutral about it.
I think
that really changed.
Yeah, I think that's incredibly important for people to hear that, from the point of view of menopause, but the point of view of pain in general is that it isn't, don't make meaning of it. Like, could you speak a bit more to that for people so they hear?
Well, the meaning, I used to make a lot of meaning about my cycles. Oh, what's wrong with me? There's got to be an answer. I mean, I became obsessed with it. And I was like, looking at the calendar. Okay, forget those 3 days. X's, So I made a lot of meaning about the experience of going through these cycles. And so when the more meaning you make, that's kind of like a metaphor for, I was generating a ton of thought
Yeah.
over my experience.
Yeah.
Big time. So if you could visualize the tallest building in the world times 50, that's how much thought I was walking around in about the fact that I had these cycles. That's how much thinking I had about it. And then of course, my sister and I, we would lament together, girlfriends. I mean, so literally would commiserate with each other, which generated more. So then I got other people agreeing with me, which made me more like, this is a done deal. This is being done to me. So that's what I mean by when you make meaning. So when you're under the weight of that, and then you're having a whole physical experience, like with Marilyn, she had the physical pain of rheumatoid arthritis, plus a ton of thought. Well, it's just, it just makes it worse. Innocently, we're making it worse and we don't realize it. We're innocently in a ton of thought and we don't know it. So when you wake up to the fact of that we're operating from thought, and just even know that you're in thought. I didn't know I was in thought. I mean, I knew I thought about stuff, but I didn't know that I was operating 100% from thought, and that was literally creating my moment-to-moment experience. I was getting a master's degree in clinical psychology, and I did not know what I just said. Did not know it. So when you start to wake up to that, like, you mean I'm creating right now, wherever your thinking is, those of you who are listening, wherever your mind is right now in this moment, that's what you're going to experience. So some people experience presence and they're listening. Other people kind of come out of presence and they start thinking about their own issues and they start going into their own mind about other stuff. Some people think, oh, what am I going to do after the podcast? I mean, our minds can go a million different ways. And that's what you want to see, that we're literally thinking beings. And so the more I appreciated that tall amount of thought started shedding, coming off. And after a while, it's like, because so now I pretty much operate in calm, like I'm pretty much at ease. And I visit chaos, reaction, upset. I visit that. Whereas before I used to live in chaos, upset, and I would visit calm.
That's a lovely way of putting it. Yes.
It just shifted, so now I spend more time in calm and less time in the other. But I still visit every now and then. But thank goodness it's a visit. It's not like I'm living there forever, right? So well, yes. that made a difference for me when I was going through menopause. And I could laugh at it. My colleague, now remember I told you my colleague, she got me to go to the homeopath. Well, she told me I should take this certain vitamin B tablet, this supplement that had vitamin B and other goods. She said, this is really good stuff. You should be taking it. I'm like, okay. So I start taking it. Well, because I'm perimenopause, right before menopause, where I'm still having my periods maybe every 3 months. I woke up one morning, I was just, flooding the blood. I freaked out. I'm hemorrhaging. I call, my Kaiser, I said, I'm flooding. This is bad. And she says to me, she says, well, how many pads are you using up? I go, what do you mean, how many pads? I'm bleeding to death here. And she wants to know how many pads. So, well, call me back if you end up using 5. I'm just listening to this, like, this is what she tells me. And I don't even use pads. But because I was flooding, somebody ran out and got me some. I said, I got to do something here. And I was fine. I did. But it turns out this supplement had something in it that made me bleed more.
Oh,
and that was the problem. And then another supplement that she gave me. See, there are times when it didn't work out. She gave me another supplement, and no, that was the hormonal cream. estrogen cream. That's what, so I use the estrogen cream. They tell you to rub it on your stomach and all that. That's what made me bleed like crazy. That's what that was. I forgot about that. Another time I took the supplement, and over time, about a week later, I was just feeling anxious all the time, like feeling anxious. And I'm like, wow. And because I've been trained clinical, I said, man, I'm having general anxiety. What's going on? All right, what happened? What's going on? What am I thinking about? I mean, I started to really, all right, something's up, because I just felt this anxiety. Turns out the supplement had a ton of B vitamins, which if you take too much, it creates anxiety.
Oh, because one of the questions that came through was about anxiety and how would you speak to, a lot of people say to me, I'm experiencing more anxiety, and it's it's the menopause. I haven't experienced it before. Now I lived in anxiety for many years. So to me, I haven't. Like, so I don't know the answer. Do you have an answer?
Well, yeah, well, there is an answer. So if you really understand how the principles work, the more thinking you have, the more you will have a physical experience of that. Now, during menopause, your hormones are, doing their thing. Your biochemistry is doing their thing. And so biochemically, if you're out of whack, if you're out of sync, then it could impact what did they call that? I forget the word, but the bottom line is that in and of itself can create anxiety, the physical biochemistry going on in your brain. So it can definitely come from that. So if hormonal changes, which changes the biochemistry of the brain. So inevitably, some people experience anxiety, some people experience depression, some people experience like being in overwhelm and in a fog. So all of this, the source is biochemical. So that's the good or bad news. Like there's a physiological reason, especially if you haven't had that before. We get nervous at times, but if you're just in general feeling anxiety, then your biochemistry is definitely out of sync.
And I guess my understanding of that would be that years spent in stress anyway would potentially impact the biochemistry, which we're more sensitive to at menopause.
Well, yeah. Well, so if you live in a ton of thought most of your life, which is what I we have no idea how much thinking we're walking around in. And a lot of times there are times I say to people, how many of you are always thinking ahead and have 20 things on your mind while you're doing the one thing in front of you, you got 20 things on your mind, and then you're also thinking ahead. Most people say, that's me, right? Most people will say, that's me. And we get good at it. We get good at keeping, it's like you're in your life doing everything, but you're walking around in all this extra thought that you do not need. So for me, I'm having a dinner tomorrow night, and I used to, make the menu, make a list of what I need to get done, make the menu. And then I'd go over the list a million times in my head, as if I needed to do that. I wrote it down. I don't just go over it one or two times. I go over it like 30 times. How many of you that are listening to me right now do that? I wish I could see you, and I want to see all your hands go up, because we do that. We literally go around and around in our head. Now it's different for me. When I'm having a dinner tomorrow night, so I know the menu, I know what I'm doing. If I start doing that, I get hip to it real fast. I see it, because I'm so not used to doing that anymore. So that when I start doing it, I'm like because I could feel myself gearing up. So you have biochemistry going on, but you also are walking around in a ton of thought innocently that you have no idea you're walking around in. So it's like the double whammy is what I call it. Biochemistry and a ton of extra thought. As opposed to, okay, if I'm feeling anxious right now, what does my wisdom tell me to do? Listen to your own wisdom to help yourself, but also recognize that, yes, it could be biochemistry, but also, wow, I'm in way more thinking than I realized. So it's kind of a combination. And then take care of yourself. You know,
That's
whatever
it,
that
yeah.
is, take care of yourself. I think we get used to a way of feeling, and we either ignore it, or we feel bad that we're having it, or whatever it is, and we don't help ourselves. Now, I was taking supplements and doing the cream, you know, well, some of them worked out and some of them didn't, but I was at least trying to help myself. And that's all you can do. But we tend to be, you know, again, hard on ourselves. And we don't accept our humanity. This is where the courage thing
I
comes
know.
from.
I thought that linked beautifully. I was going to say that links beautifully.
This is the courage to let it be okay that you don't know, to be in the unknown, but to also recognize that you have this deep, what I would call resource, limitless, I don't know, wisdom, whatever you want to call that. But we first have to have certainty that we actually have that. See, if you don't have that certainty that you have what you need already, that you have this kind of thought that is pristine, that is clear. Every human being, regardless, I see homeless folks out on the street, they have it. Everybody has it. The inmates in jail that I taught, they have it. The engineers have it. I mean, we all have it, but we've lost sight of it. We've just forgotten, but it's there. So when I get wound up or caught up or anxious or whatever that is, my feeling state is just giving me kind of a heads up. Oh, you're getting flooded in more thought than you realized. It's just information. And again, help yourself when you're in the anxiety. If you could just appreciate where it's coming from, and then the next moment, just kind of go, well, what would help me right now? Like, what would help me right now? As opposed to having a formula, well, you should do this, or you have your own wisdom on what you need to do at any given moment. And so I always point people to listen to themselves about that. Now, maybe a friend could give you advice and that could help you. I'm not saying to discount out, because I didn't discount and it ended up helping me. But ultimately, you really, really want to use your own wisdom about what's best for you. Whether you're dealing with medical people, or you're looking at, well, what can I do out, you know, yoga, swimming, whatever, you know, quieting down. I mean, we all have our own unique ways of helping ourselves. And I think that's the important thing.
I've got quite a few comments, and
Sure,
I'm aware of the time, but I just want to see if I can.
Wow, did that time go by fast?
I know.
Or what?
I know.
Dang.
I've lost some of the comments. I just want to read Shelley's first, because
Sure.
Shelley was first, and then
I wish I could see everybody.
I know I can't share my screen, but
That's okay.
oh God, sorry, how ridiculous, Wally, it's live. So Sandra initially said shedding, that's so interesting. Shelley said, I lost my best friend to cancer at 50. I went into my menopause with the mindset that I was lucky to be here to experience this.
Wow.
It works 90%. My mind is, as you say, I don't care. I think of her and it gets me through.
Wow, that's brilliant. Yeah. It's very profound. That's very profound.
Yeah. It's a shame Shelley wasn't. She's in the circle group that you came and spoke to before. It's a shame she wasn't there when you came. But Shelley, go and listen to Cathy's other talks.
But can I respond to that? I think
Yes.
we all tend to take for granted, I think. And we all tend to look at what we don't have versus what we do have. We until we lose something, or potentially we could lose something. And then we realize, wow, I'm just grateful that I'm here on the planet, you know, that I'm here, and that I'm enough. Me being on the planet is enough, and everything else is frosting on the cake. And unfortunately, we lose sight of that. We innocently lose sight of that, and every now and then we get taken out of that, where, you know, when I'm with my grandkids, I forget everything, and they're just so adorable. And I think, wow, I'm so grateful that I get to be around to experience having grandkids. I never expected it. I didn't have a plan on it or wished for it, but it just showed up in my life. So I'm so glad she shared that, because we do lose sight of what we do have.
Yes, she's just responded to you again. I will listen. Thank you, Cathy. I think losing her made me see how precious time here is,
absolutely.
whatever it brings.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I know that because I lost my brother.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly.
Dawn, lovely Dawn. Where's your question? I haven't got my glasses. What should I expect post-menopause? As this is where I'm at. Started to go through the menopause at 42. Now I'm 55. Not sure if sometimes my experiences of anxiety are related to post-menopause.
Well, for me, it's interesting. Again, the more I was around, the principles, quote, parentheses, by the time I went through menopause, and I did a lot of traveling. I was flying everywhere and teaching a lot. And so, but eventually, all of a sudden, it all just went away. It's like, the hot flashes dissipated over time, and all the not being able to sleep. It just sort of, I don't know, just shifted. I can't even tell you exactly when or how, but if you sit around and try and anticipate, if we're always looking ahead and anticipating, it's almost like we're kind of, we have this illusion that somehow if I know what's ahead, that's going to help me be okay, when it's the opposite. So what I say to people is, and this is the courage piece, to start to get okay with being in the unknown. See, the anxiety is needing to know. Whereas when I just let it be okay, I don't know what's going to be in the next, day, week, month, or whatever. I mean, I could have these thoughts about, what's, because I'm 71. What's it going to be like when I'm 85? And I could start going there, right? And then I could start feeling really anxious and it takes away from me being in my life now. So if you find yourself over anticipating and you're starting to feel anxious, that's coming from your thinking. It's not, because you don't know, none of us know. So I'm so okay with not knowing, in general. And the more okay I am about not knowing what's ahead, the more at ease I become. And then I'm more ready to deal with, if something does show up unexpected, I'm more responsive because I'm not sitting around worrying about it ahead of time. Like, I'm more ready to deal with whatever is thrown at me. And believe me, that's happened a few times. And I'm able to deal with it probably better than if I sat around worrying about something bad happening and then it does happen. And now I'm just like, really, I've dug a hole before I've even started. So just, have compassion for yourself, be gentle, notice when you do that, and just gently bring yourself back. Like, I don't know. So why would I start thinking ahead when I don't know what it's going to be? If it helps you, I'd say keep doing it. But obviously, if it's not making you feel better, maybe take a vacation from anticipating,
So I know Dawn pretty well. She's in our circle as well. And I think that's perfect advice. And actually what she said is that makes total sense. Yes, it's like I want to be prepared.
Now here where I live, they're always talking about earthquake preparedness. Now that makes sense. You have water and things, but then I have this thought, But if my whole building collapses, I won't be able to get to my water anyway. I mean, I could come up with exceptions. So it's good to be prepared in many situations, but when we psychologically do this to ourselves, that's when we're innocently shooting ourselves in the foot.
Mm.
And I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying we're just doing something that we don't realize we're doing.
Yeah.
Thinking it's going to help us.
Yeah, that's the irony, isn't it? We're trying to sort of control and scrap around. And actually, if you just make peace with what's happening right now, then that can fall away.
And do due diligence. I mean, if there are things you can do to help yourself, then actually do those things. But once you take care of things, then you can let it rest. You know, just let it rest.
Well, thank you again, Cathy. They're all very grateful and thankful on the group, and your wisdom, as always, has been invaluable, and I appreciate your time again.
And yeah, I'll let you know, it was kind of fun talking about my whole experience with my cycles and menopause, because it's such a distant memory, but talking about it, I do remember how it really was, it was really hard. And so I'm not taking away from that. I'm not taking away that it's not fun. I really want you to appreciate, I remember what a nightmare it was for me. And I can appreciate it's been a nightmare for you all. But again, if we can just start to kind of look in a different direction and just notice how much meaning we make about any experience we're going through, that maybe help a little bit take the edge off the whole thing. And I wish I'd known this earlier in my, premenopausal days, but I'm so grateful for what I know now. But I do want you to know, I definitely appreciate what everybody's struggling with, believe me. So hang in there. And I do not miss having periods. I don't miss having to take birth control pills or IUDs or all of that stuff. I do not miss. I am so thrilled that I don't have to deal with any of that. So there is life after menopause. Well, there's life during menopause too, but it's been really nice to not have to worry about that part of myself. Now I just get to worry about my hips with the arthritis. That's my next. You can't get out of this world without going through all these little things. But anyway, I'm just grateful for what I know.
Me too. Me too.
Anyway.
Honestly, I could have talked to you for a whole other hour, and there's loads of comments, but mainly they're saying thank you for your wisdom. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So,
well, I hope a little of it has been of some help.
I think all of it will have been a lot of help.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
See you later, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye.
Am I leaving or should I stay?